Yeah, so if you need to activate Power Query, first of all, automatically or by default, you'll be on the Home tab. You need to activate it by going to the Data tab. Then, if you are using the latest Excel version, maybe from 2019 upwards, you should see Get Data. Other than that, there will be another option for you around this area called New Query or something. So you go for that. But then, since you have the updated Excel version, you can get it from Get Data. You can get Power Query from Get Data. So over here, what you need to do is to select the file that you want to work with. So what you want to work with is this particular sheet. This is the sheet you want to work with, and it's in its own workbook because it's just one. Anyway, you've created another sheet which is Power Query. Yeah. So, but then we are still using this workbook. Yeah. With so far you said that it has two sheets, so that's the workbook you are going to go with, and go to get data from far, then from Excel workbook, from Excel workbook. So now you go with that and you pick your data from wherever you've saved it. If you check over here, my data is actually saved. My data is saved in this folder that is on my desktop, which is data. Okay. And this is the data I want, the coffee shop sales. Then I go to what? Import, and it's loading. So now it gives me this interface to choose from. So now it comes with this folder, coffee shop sales. Automatically create that folder in Power Query. This folder you won't be able to see it anywhere on your desktop or in any of your maybe drives. It's just stored in Power Query. Okay. So this is stored in Power Query, and what we need is to get the data we want to use. So we want to use this transactions data, but you see that automatically is the folder that is highlighted, but you have to select the data you want to work with. So you select the transactions data. Okay. So when you select it that way, you can have a preview of your data, see the columns in there and whatnot. So actually, you know what is in there already, but then you want to do some transformations on this data. Please, just a second. Okay, Mariam, you just joined. I've kept a link to the data that we are using in the WhatsApp page. So kindly check the page and download the data to your desktop so that you can also follow along. All right. So let's move on. We want to do some transformations to this data. Okay. If you check here, we have load. We have several options. You have load and load data. Sorry, and load to. This is what you have here, load and load to. But you are not going to load the data now. Because I said you need to do some transformations on this data. You have to go to transform data instead of load. So click on transform data and it's processing it. Okay, so when it's done processing, it should sure.
I say the question. Is this is this similar to the transformation in Power BI,
Yes,
Power
this
Query,
is
Power
similar.
BI
Sorry.
being the same?
Yeah, it's similar. It's
Being the same
similar.
thing.
Almost the same thing.
So when you can use Power query to do, you can do it in Power BI. I mean, or you can use Power BI to do, you can do it in Power
Yeah,
Query.
but the
Yeah.
Excel Power Query um has some limitations. Okay, and so for now, what
Oh,
I
okay.
can say
All
is
right.
you can actually do some transformation on this data in Excel, but when it comes to doing visuals, you are limited, very limited in terms of Excel. So Power Query gives you that functionality of you transforming your data, and also gives you a lot of visualizations you can do in Power BI. Yeah, so basically that's it. Yeah. All
Okay,
right,
sounds
kindly
good.
hold
Yeah,
on. Let
thank you.
me check this out. Is it light out?
Hello.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so my. Hello, am I still sharing my screen? I think can you see my
Yeah,
screen? I don't see it myself.
yeah.
I don't know. Am I still sharing? Oh, okay, sure.
No, no, we can't
No, no.
see us.
I, I think I'm good. Yeah, sure. All right, all right, all right.
Okay, good
So
now.
let's move on. Yeah, so let's do some transformations on this data. Please, are we all at the same level now? Are you following? Um, Adamu, is it? Okay, sure. And Listo, if not heard from you, are you okay?
Yeah, boss. I just joined though.
Okay,
I've
then
been on and off. Sorry.
okay, sure. Please,
But
Mariam,
I'll
are
catch
you
up.
good?
I'll catch up. No worries, sir.
I hope Nick is already good. So uh, sure.
Yes, I'm good. Got the data.
Okay, so hope we can move on. Mariam, are you with us? Okay, so let's move on. Uh, yeah. So, oh, can you hear me
Say the
now?
please, if you are talking, we can't hear you.
Hello, Ivy, please. I don't
Yes,
know.
yes.
I can hear you, please.
Ivy, are you with us? Hello, Ivy. Oh, then maybe you have to join back. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. So if you look at the date column here, we have transaction time. We have the transaction dates. Okay. Uh, Yeah, Ivy, can you hear us?
Hello.
Oh, then maybe you have to
We can't
rejoin.
hear you.
Okay. Okay, so over here we have the transaction dates, and you can see some date icon up there. See some date icon up there. This is the date. This is how the date is actually identified in Power Query. So if it's a date, it's put that table icon over there, and date time. You see that there's that date icon with time on it, and if it's time, so basically that's how it represents the various formats. So decimal, whole number, that's how you should identify them. So if you check the transaction ID here, realize this one is a whole number. So if you see 1, 2, 3 icon over there, then it tells you you are dealing with a whole number, and you can change it over here. You can just click on it this way, click on it, and change it to whatever you want. So assuming I want to change it to, let's say, a decimal this way, I can change it to a decimal. Then, okay, I can add a step. I don't want to replace the previous step. So I can add a step. And now it's showing decimal. When it's decimal, it shows 1.2, which is the icon to tell you that that particular date format is a decimal. And you can change it back to a whole number again. But this time I want to replace the step. Okay, so it's back to a number. And I can also remove these steps. I don't really need them here. So I've removed them. But then when I remove these steps, you realize that the transaction ID, the icon is now A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. So now it's not a number anymore. It's more or less like alphanumeric. So when you are dealing with this kind of formats, assuming you are doing some calculations that involved the transaction ID and also involve another column that has a number format, you will have issues. If you are dealing with two different, let's say, columns, all of them should and you are performing some calculations on them, all of them should have the same number formats. If you are summing, you should have the same number formats for all of them. And if you are maybe counting the number of rows, and one is also in a number, one is also in a text, you still have issues. So you either convert the two to text, or you convert all of them to a number format. You come to that and you will see how it works. And one important thing here, this date is now represented as transaction, sorry, as alphanumeric. It's no more dates again, okay? Because it automatically did those transformations, but I cleared that step. Well, initially, when you bring the data in, especially in Power BI, this
Please,
please check,
which step
check,
is that?
check. Don't worry, you
The
come back to
step
that.
that you
But
cleared.
follow my mouse now. Follow my mouse now. I just want to
Okay.
go to the source, how the transformation began. Then you come to that step. That step is that it changes the dates, sorry, the type for all the various columns. That is, if you check transaction ID over here, we have the type as alphanumeric, the date as alphanumeric, the transaction time as alphanumeric, but that's not, we don't want all our columns in this format. You can't even perform calculations on them. You have issues. So I want us to go to the roots and fix these things ourselves. Sometimes Power BI does it, sorry, Power Query does it for you. You can stick with that, or you can cross check and make sure that everything is correct before you proceed to make your calculations using these columns or fields. Okay. So now I'll remove this promoted headers. Where is this promoted header coming from? We should understand how it came about. Okay, so I'll remove it. You do it ourselves. When I remove it, check up here, over here. You realize that your data starts from 1, and 1 is starting from the headers. Transaction ID is now the first row, and this shouldn't be the case. It should be up here where it's indicated column 1, column 2, column 3. Those should be the headers for the various columns that you see here. Okay, those should be the headers instead of column 1, 2, 3 up to column 11. That is not right. So you come back to that, you fix that. So let's look at this step again. Look at this side. Over here, you have the applied steps. So if I say step, you should just focus on that area. Okay. So you have the applied steps here. Whatever transformation you do, the Power Query keeps a record of that. Those records are known as the steps. Okay, so those records are known as the steps. More or less like writing them down for you. But these steps are something you can come back and edit them or even remove them. So let's remove this navigation step. You don't need it. When you remove it, just observe the data. Just observe the data. When you remove it, what will happen? Just observe it. So I'll remove it here. What do you see? Where is your data now? Any idea where your data is? Where can you even get the data again?
Maybe it's back in the
Yes.
original
So
before
now,
we
even
transformed
though
it.
you still have access to the transactions sheet. Okay, if you check Excel, okay, let me actually put them side by side. Uh, this is okay. So because I'm already doing some steps here. Okay, so it's not allowing me to do what I wanted. Let me bring the data here. This thing frozen hours. Then okay, so yeah. All right, so I think we are good. If you check these sheets, we have the transactions sheet over here in this workbook. But then if you check Power Query, in Power Query here, you still see this transaction sheet at this section or at this side. This is the queries. The queries. Whatever data you'll be working with will come under the queries. Okay. Those whatever data you import, it will come under these queries. Every data will be under these queries. And you can also manufacture your own data and they will also be under this query. You look at those ones later when you can do some dimensions data and link it to the actual data that you are working with. Those are some data that you can do yourself or you can create yourself. So let's take notice of this queries section. That's where you see your data and this query settings. Under query settings, we have the properties over here. So you can actually rename this. It's transactions. I can rename it over here at the properties, or I can just double click and rename it here, or I can just right click and rename it here, whatever you want. So let me say, coffee sales, or let me say coffee shop sales. So I've renamed it and realize that it's also reflected at the properties side. And under the apply steps, that apply steps is going to take record of all the transformations that you do on this particular data set, this coffee shop data, the data you are going to work with. So whatever transformation you do will be recorded over here. Okay. So now, if you check here, we have two rows here, row 1 and row 2. Inside row 1, we have the name, the data, item, kind, and heading. These are the columns we have, but none of them are important to us at this time except the data column. Under the data column, we have a table under it. Now your data is hidden in that table. Your data, the coffee shop's sales is now hidden in this table. And when you click on it, your mouse pointer turns into a hand, telling you that it's a clickable link. You can click on it and something will happen. So that is where our data is now. So you have to bring it back. Okay, you have to bring it back. So let me click on that. But before that, you also see the row 2. That one is it's not something that you need. It's more or less like keeping it's more or less like a metadata of what you are doing, but you don't really need it. It's like some temporary thing that Power BI is sorry, I'm always confusing Power BI and Power Query. Some temporary thing that Power Query is doing. So forget about that one and focus on the transactions over here, the row 1 itself. So I'll click on the table over here. I'll click here. And when I click, you realize my data is now back. And when I click that, before that, you only had the source step. But then Power Query has done the navigation for us. The navigation, when you click this settings icon, you'll see what happened over here. So This is the navigation it did. It just went into this folder that it's created for us. You realize that we did this thing earlier. We clicked on this and it brought this promoted headers and change type. This is something we did earlier. Okay, so let's close this. Forget about the navigation. Then it comes to the promoted headers. But you realize that when I remove these promoted headers, the header names change to column 1, column 2, column 3 instead of transaction ID, transaction date, and transaction time. So now you have the proper column names. So that is the promote. That's how come it's promoted those headers from row 1. Initially they were at row 1. So it's promoted them from row 1 to wherever it's supposed to be, that to above the data. So that's how the data is supposed to be represented here. And you can also do that over here. Assuming I remove this, okay? Assuming I remove this, I remove the promoted headers like this. I can personally do it or manually do it by going to use first row as headers. Use first row as headers. Okay, then click OK. When you click OK, the promoted headers step comes back again. So it tells you that that one has been executed. And now we have another step, which is change type. Change type. You change what kind of type? The type of the data. Over here, the type of the transaction data is a number format now, because you see 1, 2, 3 here. Over there, that's telling you that okay, this transaction ID is in a number format. When you go down, you see 1, 2, 3 to the end. When you come to the transaction dates, it gives you this date icon automatically, and it tells you that that column is in a date format. And over here, we have time and date. But I realize these dates. Well, check the transaction date and check the transaction time. When you check, there's also a date attached to this transaction time. But this transaction date doesn't really make sense. How can the transaction date be 1st January 2023 and we are having transaction time with this date 1899? Does it really make sense? It doesn't. And even if you check all the dates, all these orders came in from just 1st February, from January and February inside this. But then when you expand, we're able to see the various dates as well. So it ends in what? June 30th. All right, so this one is fine, but this one has to be fixed. Or you can remove this entire column if you don't need it, because you don't need these dates here. What might be important is the time, and you should be able to extract the time alone from this particular date and delete the date part, because it doesn't really make sense to have it in 1899 instead of 2023. All right, and when you check this, you have the transaction quantity. This one, you also see the 1, 2, 3 icon. So it tells you that this one is also in a number format. Yes, and ideally, when you actually see the column names, you should be able to understand the type of formats that data should have. If you check store ID in this way, some IDs are more or less like alphanumeric, comprises of a number and some letters together. But this particular one is in a number format, store ID. Yes, so this one actually also what makes sense. Okay. You leave it, it's more or less like the transaction date. Sorry, transaction ID. So you take this as it is. And when you check store location, the location will be something like a name. And if it's a name, the name should have some letters. And those letters, they should have a text what format. When you click here, the ABC icon here, when you click,
Sure.
you have a text format here, and you have several formats. You can come and pick decimal here. Let's try it. Will it actually work? Let's try it. You see that it gives you error. What's happening? It can't recognize that one as a number, so it can't work with it. Okay. When you transform it, let's say you want to transform it to true or false. So still give you error because it doesn't make sense. So you should actually know or be able to understand the kind of format that particular field or column should have for the data points in there. All right, so this makes sense that it's a location and it has a name and it should be a text. And as since it's a text, the format should also be what? A text. And product ID. So ID, it can either be a number or number and text mixed. So in this way, it's a number. You leave it as it is. And unit price. Over here, you realize that you have unit price here. We have unit price. We have 3, 3.1, 4.5, 2. But this one, even though it's a decimal, you will see 1.2 icon there, which shows that that particular column, the data in there is in the decimal format. But over here, if I want to give it instead of just 3, I want to show as a decimal. I want it to show as a decimal. So what do I do? Let's come here and format. No. Okay, so here, let me click here. I actually want to let it have like at least one decimal place, but I think I'm missing where that functionality is. You come back to that. I don't want to just waste time. If by the time you come out, I would have recognized where it is. So let's check the other part. We have the product category. So product category, since it's a name, it should also be in the text format. Product type the same, product detail the same. So basically, this is what you have. This is what you have in this particular data set. And now okay, did you do some filtering here? Filtered rows. Did you filter anything here? Okay, I don't remember. So let's clear that filter from there. All right. So now, I want us to look at the date parts, especially the date parts. So here, I will remove the type for all of them. I'll remove the type for all of them. Then transform this particular date. I'll transform this date to a date format again. So if you want to do that, just select this column. You can select the whole column like what I did, like this way. Or we can just click on the icon here and change the type to a date. And you realize that's the only part that has been changed. So what if I have multiple dates in there and I want to combine all of them at the same time? You have this and this being dates. So now let me combine the two and transform them as a date. Okay. So I can select all of them and click here. But when you click on this icon, this is for individual columns. But then when you want to transform multiple columns, You now have to select all of them. Then you right click, then go to change type. Change type. Then you can now choose the format you want. And in this case, you want a date format. So click on dates and you are good to go. The two are transformed together. Okay. Whenever I want to transform this, the transaction ID, the transaction quantity, store ID, all of them are in the number format. Then product ID also in the number format. And that is it. So I have these four selected. If you want to select them, let me show you. You can just select the first one, but before you select the second one, you press the control key. Okay, press control, then you click your mouse. You right click, and you go to the next. You click again. Whilst holding the control, don't remove your finger. So you do same for here. Then you are good to go. I think you've selected all the four. Then I'll transform all of them at the same time. So now I want to change it to a number format. So we are good. And that changes it to a number format. So these ones are in a number format now. And the store location, you realize it's in A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. I don't want it that way. So you can do it by right click. You click, then you select the rest. We have this guy, the product type, and the product detail. And you come back to the unit price. So now we change it to a text format, and we are good over here as well. The last part is the unit price. Over here, that is the only thing. So you do it alone. You change the type to a decimal. Okay? To a decimal. Alright, so now we are done with the transformations, like changing all the types. And you realize that it kept all of them as one step, like how Power BI did it manually, automatically for us. It kept all of them as one step here. Okay, so that's fine. And now let's look at the dates again. What I wanted to show you, if you are having issues with your dates, sometimes you transform them, and when some of them are still in a text format, they tend to give errors in Power Query. If you are having that kind of error, what you can do is to go to the file. Okay, whilst you are here, go to file, this file, go to file. This is for Excel. Power BI also has almost the same format. So go to file over here, go to options and settings, then go to query options. So when you go to query options, you have this interface here. We have general data load, we have Power Query editor. You can actually check these things yourself and see what is there. We have privacy, but you don't need this up here. You come back to that when you need them. But then what you need now is go to the regional settings. You see this thing here? This thing, if it starts to give you issues, you can waste more than 2 hours on this thing if you don't know how to do this. More than 2 hours trying to fix these date issues. So you realize that by default, it's giving us English United States. When you click on regional settings, local, it's giving us English United States. But when you hover on this local thing, what does it say? What it reads here is local determines the regional settings used to interpret numbers, dates, and time in imported text for this file. All right, so that is it. But then over here, let's look at the right selection to make. We have a lot of options. By default, it comes with English United States. So wherever you are, if you are in, let's say, Spain, US, maybe England, go to choose what is in your location, or that's your current location. Choose what is there. Okay, so since I'm in Ghana at the moment, I have to choose for English Ghana. And you realize you even have Akan Ghana, which I've not even tried that. But then you want to go for English Ghana if you are in Ghana, so that you are able to fix your date issues. If you don't do this, you always have issues with your dates. So any power or any date you want to, or any data set you want to transform in Power Query, you have to make sure that this settings is done for that particular data set before, if you are having issues with your date, before they will be resolved. Else we just keep coming back and forth on that particular date. So I'll go for English Ghana here. English Ghana. So please, my fellow Ghanaians, go for English Ghana. If you are in the US, just stick with the first one. If you are in a different country, search for that country. Maybe let's check. Hey, please, I beg. Ademu. So if you are in a different country, let's say Spain, do you have English Spain here? English Spain. Uh, English Spain. We have English Zambia, Spain, Sudan. Wow, I don't know which countries close to Spain that we can use. I don't see Spain here. Yeah, I don't see Spain here though. But then, um, all right. So let's focus on what we have here. We can't be wasting time on everything. Yeah. So I chose English Ghana. So go with that, and press OK. So when you press OK, it doesn't do any transformation or any step here. This one is done under the hood. You don't see it. So this is done. And now you can close and load our data. When you close and load the data, it should now create a different sheet. You see that here it's showing that getting external data. Okay. So now it creates a different sheet called coffee shop sales. Coffee shop sales. Okay. So this is how we named our data over there. So coffee shop sales. It gives us the same name here. All right. So now we have this. When I filter the dates over here, you realize that everything is in order. Everything is recognized as a date, and you don't have any problem here. But then what I actually wanted is to get a very problematic date to see how we can fix that. But then we couldn't find a date like that. And it seems our previous issues are not coming up anymore. I don't know what's going on with Excel now. Sure.
So the question. Hey, so are you
Yes, so
out of
far.
the
So
Power
now
Query?
we are
Are
out
you in a
of Power
different?
Query.
Are you in the
We
Excel?
are out of Power Query. We are in Excel now. So this is the data that you were working on in Power Query, and it automatically creates that. So now you can even delete this, or put it in a different workbook. Ideally, you should have been in a different worksheet to do.
So question, what did you close and
Okay, so
load to, or just close and
you
load?
just have to, yeah, just close and
From when
load,
you were in
close and
Power
load.
Query, you went very
Yeah.
fast. I didn't
So let me go over
close and
this
load.
again,
Okay.
but in a very quick manner. So I'll close this whole data. I will not save anything. So instead of this, I'll create a new folder here. and let's say I'll just name it data sets underscore maybe Power Query. So pick it.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right, so I'll try and get this data inside this folder I've created. I just want to go over it again. Because these things, if you know it, it saves you a lot of time instead of going back and forth with your issues. So now I will leave this one alone. I will not touch this data. I will not touch it. So I'll create a new sheet. Ideally, this is what you should have done. I'll create a new sheet and I'll call it maybe master file. Assuming I have multiple data that I want to be working with. Okay. So I'll probably name this one, let's say master file. And I open this master file. I open this master file and let me bring it in focus. So this master file, it doesn't know about this particular data you want to work. It doesn't know anything about it. But I'll bring a copy of that particular data in this master file by using what? Power Query. So first of all, as I said, go to data, go to get data. You want to get it from a particular workbook. There are other options as well. So now we are getting it from this workbook. Sorry, no, I have to go to I created so here. Over here, you still have the master file here, but I'll get it from this workbook. Okay, so coffee shop sales, imports, and let's see. So now I have to click on the data, sorry, the transactions data, and I already know this. I already have a preview of that. So I'll transform the data here, and this time around, I just won't do anything. I think you already have gone over these ones.
Please zoom in a
Okay,
bit,
ideally,
okay?
when you are in Power
Zoom in a
Power
bit.
Query, you can't really zoom in. So I don't know, and I've maximized my distance, but you can't really zoom in here. All right, so let's move on. So now I have this already, but assuming you've done all our transformations, everything is in order. Everything is in order here, and now when I'm done, what I have to do is what? Close and load. You also have another options, close and load to I think query or so, but you're not going to go with that. Just close and load. So click that. And now it should be getting the data here. Okay. So that is it. Your data is now here. And you can work with it. So assuming you want to create some maybe pivot tables and do some charts. Someone trying to join. Okay, Jeff, please. I think you have your hands up.
Sorry. Yeah, I thought you go through that route of showing us the
Oh,
Akan English
oh, okay, okay, okay,
and all those
okay.
uh,
Sure, let me do it again.
steps again.
That's actually where the problem is.
So
Yeah, because
my
I
Okay,
didn't
I'll
see
go
a
over
bit
it. Please, Nick, do you have
on
something?
that. But I think
yeah,
Nick
so
also
my
has
question is
something to ask.
yeah, why did we have to go through Power Query to pull the data back into Excel?
Okay, so
what was the goal there?
yeah, and get the
Going through
data in
Power
this
Query and
format,
then going
right?
back. Right. Was it to have it in a
Oh
table
no, no,
table
that's
format?
not the main
Is that the only
reason. That's
reason
not
we
the
went
main
to Power
reason.
Query?
Yeah. So you have you can have issues with our data, especially the dates. But this time around, the date is fine. When you have issues with the dates, one solution is to use Power Query to fix your dates. So here, let me actually clear this. I don't want this anymore, so I'll just delete it, and I'll delete from here as well.
No, I understand
Yeah.
what
So
we went through the
yeah. So
process, but I just wanted to know
yeah,
if I
sure.
have
You might
issues
have issues
and
with
is it
dates,
just more because of the date?
and especially if you are going through that problem, what you can do is to okay. Let me go back and do that, so that you all have a view of that. Okay. So I think that's the question that Jeff was asking about. So I'll do that quickly here, and okay, yeah. All right. So assuming I'm having issues with my dates here, the the best solution for you to deal with stubborn dates is to actually go to the file, as I showed earlier. Go to the file and go to the query options here, because you didn't have any issues. You will not really appreciate what you did. But if you're having issues with your date column, this will actually be like more or less like a time saver for you, because these issues can take you more than an hour for you to figure them out. Trying to think that you want to format your date by using several several techniques in Excel, but it will not work for you. But Power Query does it very simple. That's when you have to make sure that you actually have the right regional settings done in your Power Query, so that it's automatically able to transform your dates based on the region you select. There has been some instances that I was having my region to be English United States, and I had a lot of errors in my dates, a lot of errors. But when I changed it to Ghana United, sorry, English Ghana, all those things were solved. So that's one. And also, you can have data coming in every month. Assuming you maybe where you are working, you every month you get data sets
What is wrong
for,
with the
let's say, the
network?
sales that has come in. They don't combine everything. So if you have that kind of data, you can also use Power Queries. So for instance, maybe for the year, you have like about 12 different data for each month. What you can do is to use Power Query to combine those data. I think you've already done a demo of that in the previous sessions, but I don't know if I should do that as well here. Um, so let me close and load this one, and let me try and do a quick demo of that. A quick demo of that. I think I should have these dates here. Alright, so let me check my desktop here. Mm, Alright, demo, your hands are up. Go ahead. Go ahead. So,
Yeah, I think with regards to the question that Nick asked, I think the question has been answered. So he didn't ask that he didn't understand the Power Query or what you want to do again. He was only trying to find out why we went into Power Query. And you explained that you could easily use that to resolve your date issues and stuff. So you have to go back. Or if someone is having a challenge and the person is raising that, I don't have a problem. But so far as no one is asking for a recap,
okay, okay,
then we
sure.
should move
Alright.
forward.
Um, okay, so if you are fine with that, then let's move on. Alright, so then think as part of as a part of your practice, maybe you can get a data set that comes in every month, let's say every month, or even if it's a yearly data set, but they are separated. You can combine that with Power Query. So get a data like that and try your hands on that and see how it goes. If you have issues, you can always look at how to fix it. So we can try our hands on something like that. But then with this one, if now you don't have much issues with the dates over here, the only thing we can maybe fix is the decimals over here. So here, let's see if we can fix that. Alright, so now we have it in 3 decimal place, but I don't want 3. You just want 2. So that one is fixed here, but you can also fix it in Power Query. But you look at that later. Alright, so assuming you want to put in some pivot tables over here, it's now easy for you because all your dates are in the right order and you don't have to deal with all those headaches. So let's do this here. Assuming I want to get an insight of the sales that were coming in every month. Every month, I have to get the date, the transaction date. Okay, this is the transaction date. So I'll drop that. I'll drop that in the row, and over here, because it's just 1 year. It's just 1 year. It didn't actually give us the data in the yearly format. So let's stick with the month. But I'll remove this from here. I'll remove the transaction date and leave the month here. Okay. So you have up to, the data is it came in just in 2023. So I want to get an insight on monthly sales that came in. So we have for different products. Let's go with the products category. Okay, so I'll put that here in the column. And if you check the table, do you have anything like sales? You don't have anything like sales. Let's check the actual data you have. You don't have anything like sales amount or sales anything or whatever. So what do you want to even track in the first place? If you check here, we can check over here for transaction quantity. You can track the transaction quantity here. So I'll put that here. This is sum. Does it really make sense to do a sum of the transaction quantity here? Okay. So looking at the data, does it really make sense to do a sum of that? We have about how many rows? A lot. We have 149,000 rows for this particular data set. Does it actually make sense to do a sum of the transaction quantity? Why are we doing that? Should I do a count or you should stick with a sum? Please, I'm waiting for your responses. Any idea? Does the sum make sense in the first place?
Yes, because
Yeah,
the
sure.
rows they
Sure.
are not the same. There is ones and twos. If we do a count, we'll count
Yeah,
the number of
so then I think
times
the sum actually makes
you have
sense.
in the rows.
So now, if you check for bakery for January 2023, we had 2,690, and the total for bakery for all the months is 23,214. And you have like branded, you have coffee, you have coffee beans, drinking chocolates, you have flavors and whatnot. So this is actually giving you insights on the number of sales that each category actually recorded in this month. Yeah, so we can also do some charting here. What else can we do about this transaction day, transaction ID? I think so far if you've taken the most important thing here, which is the transaction quantity. The rest are more or less like a description of the actual data. So if I want to check the product type over here, let me see. Let me remove the category and bring type. All right, so we have this product type as well. All right, let's go back to the category. Okay, so if I want to do some charting in here, I can go to the pivot table, analyze over here. Then over here, we have pivot charts here. We have pivot charts. If you want to build some charts to make the visual actually look appealing and easy to the eye, over here is in a table format, but then you realize it will be difficult to visualize it without using charts. So let's insert a chart here for this. You go to pivot charts and select the type of chart you want to go with. So let's say a bar chart or something, or let's go with a column charts. So this, okay, let's check this one. So this one you just have to experiment. You don't always get it right. So you experiment and get a type of chart that actually makes sense for your analysis. So here you have the product category and the number of quantity that came in. And over here, you see the different categories here. We have the tea as we have in this table. We have the bakery and the rest. But this chart doesn't really make it easy for us to visualize. Let's try a different chart over here. Let's try a different chart. Okay, so okay. So I'll just delete this one and bring in a different chart for this. So go to pivot table, analyze, go to pivot chart. But then this is not the only option. You can also go to the insert option as well and bring in your charts. So here you have different types of charts you can also go with. So You can go with these ones as well. So it's not only at that point. It's not only always have to come to pivot table analyze and get your charts. You can go to the insert as well, like how you do for normal Excel charts. So let's do it from here, from the insert. You can also go for recommended charts, then view what you think is okay for you. So this one like this comes in every month for the various categories. So like this is what you see. This is what you see. And we can actually select, maybe if you want to visualize just um for 1 month. If you want to visualize just for 1 month, that should be possible as well. Let's say January, and this actually looks good. This is just for January. This looks good. So you have just for January for the different categories. And yeah, so here, assuming I want to do for like 3 months, I can do for the 3 months here, January, February, for the various categories. But then, as I said, you can always experiment with the different charts type you have and pick whatever suits your analysis. And for the categories, assuming I don't want to go in for all the categories, I can also filter for the various categories I want. If you check, let me filter for, let's say, bakery, coffee, and let's say tea, for just 3 categories. And it also presents it in this format. So basically, when you are doing your charts, you shouldn't go in for a lot of data. If you go in for a lot of data, it makes your charts um difficult to visualize, and more or less like things are just cluttered and you can't really have a good visual of your chart. So make sure you don't go in for a lot of data or a lot of columns, or like how you are doing for categories and months. But then if you have if you have if you can group just for the months and filter for just maybe a year, that will also be fine. So let's filter for, let's say, from January to February. But you realize that our data actually ends in June. Okay, we have January, February, March, April, May, June. But you realize that even though we've gone in for more data on the month side, but this still actually looks good. It's easy for you to visualize. You're able to know for these categories. For these categories, for January, you realize that coffee actually had the highest order, and if you come to June, so coffee has the highest order. But then you can realize coffee is kind of always um the one with the highest order for all these months. Yeah, and maybe assuming I want to focus on the top 5 categories. The top 5 categories. The top 5 categories, if you clear these filters, the top 5 categories, we have, by looking at these numbers, we have the coffee, which is 89,000, 89,000. We have the bakery, 23,000. We have the tea, which is 69,000. We have 17,000 for chocolates, and you have 10,000 for flavors. So these are the top 5 categories. So let me filter for the top 5. So bakery, we have coffee, we have flavors, we have I think tea, and what again? Um, what again? What again? What again? Drinking. Is it drinking chocolate? Yeah, drinking chocolate. So these are the top five. So you can have a visual for the top five, or maybe the top two or top three, or what actually you want to get insight from. So these are the top five. And which categories do you have the least, uh, let me say, the least orders coming in? So I can just duplicate this pivot table over here. Okay, I've duplicated this. I'll unfilter all these selections I've done for this particular one. And now over here, I want to create a chart for the bottom, let's say bottom 3 or 5. So we have branded, we have this guy, coffee beans, we have loose tea, we have packaged chocolates, and coffee beans. Oh, actually, let's focus on the top. Sorry, the bottom 3 or bottom 4. So here we insert our chart again. Over here, you can go in for recommended charts. Maybe pick this and click OK. But then you have to filter it for the right categories you want. We have the loose tea, the packaged chocolates, we have the coffee beans and branded. These are the ones with the least orders. So if you check, these are the okay. So this is for like these dates. All right, you can take these guys out. Okay, so you have this one, and also with this, you have a lot of settings you can actually do for these charts. Okay, so let me minimize this and expand this one. You have a lot of settings you can do. You realize you have some grid lines going through, and assuming I want to show the total number of orders on each of the bars for the various months. How do I even go about that? And even uh this um this legend, if I want to put it somewhere else, how do I go about that? So here, you can just drag it and put it here, and it's there. But what if I want to maybe do it horizontally? Is that one even possible? Yeah, that's possible. So you can come here. This is the style, the different style that you can get for your charts and whatever. So if any of this fancy you and you want to go with, that's fine. You can also change the colors you want and whatever. So let's pick this. So you realize that when you select any of the colors, it's this is like a set of colors. So when you select this, it's pick this set for you. When I am going to go with green, so let me select the green over here. So this is it. But then these ones are more or less like different colors together. So let's go with this, and you can do the various changes here. You can bring data labels here. If I bring data labels, then you see that all the all the orders that came in for the various months are now showing on top of it. And you can click here and data labels again. So how do you want them to display? Do you want to maybe inside it or inside end, or maybe you want to center them in it or whatever? You can do a lot of things with it, and you can go for more options. Maybe you want to put in some shadows, a lot of things. You can just do a lot of things in here. So solid fill, you want to uh, have some colors inside these things and what have you. So a lot of things. And also we can do changes on the borders as well. But these ones will come in later. So I want us to focus on just how to do these changes. But when you start our dashboard in Excel, you actually do the formatting proper and see how we can work with all these things. So we can also remove the grid lines here, and you have a clear view here. And the legend, you can even get rid of this legend as well, and it's gone. You can expand this as well. You can increase it to fill it, whatever. You can remove this things here, the data labels, chart title. You can bring a title for your charts, data labels. I've taken them back. So these are error bars. We will look at these things later. And trend line, if you want a trend line for any of this, let's see. This is also possible. And Axios title, you can do a title for this over here, maybe like monthly, whatever. And here is the quantity that came in every month. So you can just give them the right title they deserve for each of the axes. So let's clear that as well. And over here, realize that when I unselect the axis, it takes away this month. The month is gone, and also the quantities are also what? They are also gone. So in the case that you want to display the data labels, it doesn't really make sense to display the quantities as well. Let me clear this chart title. So I'll remove the title here. So if I want to bring the data labels over here, what is the point of you showing this axis here as well? But then you realize when I uncheck this, if I want to maintain the month, how do I go about it? I have to go for more options here. So which one is the primary horizontal and primary vertical? So if I unchecked the primary vertical, you realize that it's just the other quantity that is gone now. The months are still here. Okay? The months are still here. What if I uncheck this? The months are gone, but you have the column, uh, you have the quantities at the column side or the Y side. So I just don't want this quantities. So I'll take that off and I'll maintain the month so that everyone who sees this knows that, oh, okay, this data is actually coming in every month, and this is the quantity for this category. You had 57 for January, 141 for this category for January, and so forth. So this is how you can work with these kind of things. So yeah, there are a lot of things you can do. A lot. So a lot of things. And even the trend lines. Oh, okay. I think I'm back. Yeah. Data labels, no legend keys, whatever. So there are a lot of modifications with legend keys we can do. This is no legend keys. I'll remove this. Okay. Remove this. More options. Move this and move this and move this. Okay. So let the increase. Okay. Yeah. So the options are a lot. You have a lot of options to work with. But then you have to actually work on one dashboard in Excel. That should be a complete dashboard for you to maybe let me show you something here. So let me show you this. Okay, so mm, everything is selected here. So then when you are done with your selection, you go to insert. Okay, ideally you'll be in the home. So you go to insert, then you go to pivot tables. Then here we have from range, from external data source, and from pivot table from Power BI. You don't want to use that. So you want to do it from this selection that you've made. And this selection you've made is the table range. Okay. So you click on table range and then it gives you this menu here, and we can either put it in the same
Okay.
sheet. We have this sheet here. So if you want to put it in this same sheet we have, that will be an existing sheet we have. But then if you don't want it that way, then you have
Okay.
to stick with new sheets over here. Okay. Yeah. So now, assuming you want to go with a new sheet, I click OK. Here it's giving us an error. Why the error? Because if you look at the selection, it has selected something else. Because you came to sheet 1, it has selected sheet 1 over here as well. So you realize that there's sheet 1
Okay.
exclamation sign, $B, $3. So you don't want that. You clear that from there. Okay. Your selection should be for just this sheet. So you realize that it's just this sheet that is selected. But then,
Yeah. My.
please, do you have further questions? Okay. Okay, sure.
No. I
So
got
this
yeah.
is just
Mine
what
was
is
good
selected here.
because I didn't.
But now you've lost the selection. You've lost the selection here. So if you want to get it again, we can highlight the column, the first column header. Then go down and go to the end of the, oh no, it's, yeah, so
No,
I'm
I have it.
having
I have
issues
it. I
now.
think since you click a
Okay,
different
sure,
sheet, you
sure,
got
sure.
a sheet.
All right,
Mine is
then
good.
that's fine.
So now I have a sheet that has the says pivot table.
Yeah, so sure, that's fine. So we can put it in the
Still
new
on
sheet
it,
or
right?
something. All right, so this is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we can experiment it
Okay. So that's what I
in
have.
any way you want. If you have issues, you can always alert me. Then I'll help you on that.
Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
All right. Sounds good.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Ademu, do you have
Have
issues
a good
as
night.
well?
So from here, you just
Yeah.
check
So I just, you can go
tables
to.
that
You
you
have the
want.
various sections. You have the rules, the columns, the values, the filters, right? So now I want to do like the
Mhm.
analysis based on the month that the data actually came in. So I can just pull these are the column headers. Okay, if you check here, If you check here, we have transaction ID, transaction date. If you come back here, these are the same things we are seeing here. So the
Right.
transaction ID, transaction date is here. But then this month is not seen. This month is not seen here. Okay, you don't see the month there. The month is actually coming in from the transaction date we did.
In the date.
Because the date is in the right format, it's able to give you the month.
Right.
Okay. So it picks the month from this part, just this part. So you realize that the month actually it actually ends in, and when you bring it, it actually ends in June, like how you see that date over here. It ends in June.
Yeah. So mine doesn't have the month. It ends in
It,
product detail under the pivot table field.
so
It
for
ends
now,
in product detail
drag the
on
transaction
the
date
other
first
pivot
inside the
table. Yeah.
rows instead of the months.
Okay.
What do you see? Does it automatically comes with the month in there? So now you can remove
Yeah.
the
It comes with
transaction
the
dates
month and
and leave
date.
the month alone. Sure.
Okay.
All right. So now if you have
Okay.
the month, let me bring in my month here. If you have the month, then we can now drag an appropriate column that you think should help track maybe the number of sales or the sales amount. But in this case, because you don't have the sales amounts, let's go with a uh, sorry, the quantity that we had. Ideally, you could have gotten the sales amounts by using the unit price and the quantity. We have the transaction quantity. Okay, we could have done that, but I intentionally didn't bring that one up. We will look at that tomorrow. So yeah, so let's just
Okay.
go
All
in
right.
for the transaction quantity. Put that one at the value side. If you realize if you put it at the column side, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense. So there's nothing you can even do with this. You don't even see anything here. Yeah, so because
Okay.
it's more or less like a cumulative data, so and it's a value. So you bring it to the value section and it's able to draw some insights from that
Okay.
data. So here we have this, and also I think we filtered. Sorry, we didn't filter. We drag the product category to the column side so that for every product we're able to see the number of. Sorry, for every category of product, we're able to see the number of quantities that we had over here. Yeah, yeah, sure.
All right.
And
For the different
yeah,
ones.
so pretty much that's basically
All right.
how it works. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, you
That's
can
clear. And
try
here I can
different
do the
iterations
chart.
to see how things
Okay.
really work. And just need a bit of practice. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you much.
All right, sure, sure.
Right. Okay.
Okay, you're welcome, welcome. Sure. Bye
All
bye.
right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow.